Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and in this video I will actually give you a tutorial on Figma Variants so that you can actually design faster. Right, so let's get cracking with the variants on Figma. And if you don't know, variants are one of my favorite features on Figma because right now I am working on a very complex work at my full-time UX design job, and they really help simplify it. Now, let's start with an overview, and let's say we have this button submit. It's a simple button. It's something you have across almost all design software that's a mobile or a web. You will have worked with this. You know what this element is. And the problem doesn't start with a button, it starts with many buttons. You can have 50 of these if you want. You can have, like, if you are working on a product, like if you're working on a project that is actually big enough, you might have like 48 buttons. And each change you are gonna make in those buttons across a different part of an application will actually exponentially make you more work, because you will repeat, even if you componentize them, because you will need different variations. Let's say you want one button to have no fill, you want the other to have a different color here, and you want other stuff. You want to have basically a much more modular way on using a single button while letting it have all the other possible choices that it can contain. And that is where variations are born. So let's delete these. So let's say I have, and let's make this prettier. Let's make this a black one, and let's make this a white text here. Let's say instead of just copying and pasting, we want to learn to use variants in Figma to actually ease our work. The first thing you should do is you want to make this frame into a component, and your shortcut to do that is Command-Alt-K. And now it's actually a component. It has additional superpowers. And then what you want to do is you want to add the option for being a variant. Now what Figma did is it actually created a copy of the second variant on its own, because if you only have one element, you really don't have a variant, you just have the original. So now you have a few things going on here, and I'm gonna click here. So if you look at the left side here, and this is critical, you have this whole group called button primary, and inside it you have a variant too, and then you have a default. What this means is your main work when you are actually gonna set your properties, and I'm gonna explain what those are in a second, is going to be by clicking the most parent, which is the button primary here, and you are gonna set its properties. Basically, a property is a type where, depending on the value you provide to the property, you will get a different looking element. Imagine this like a machine where, depending on the value we pick, we will get a different button. Right now we have only two possible choices, and I'm gonna show you. Let's make this button gray or red. So let's say the property we have for this button is, double clicking there, color. And let's say now that I'm going to the child, the actual elements, let's say this button, this red button, will have the color properties value as in like red, and this one would have it as in, let's say, black. Now what does this mean? Why is this useful? Now if I were to grab a copy of this element and paste it, now I can use this in any other kind of a frame. Let's say I have this and I move my button here, my submit button black color, to this iPhone 13 mini iOS. Now what I can do now is I can actually pick the color. Isn't that cool? And that's very cool, because this actually basically lets you have much more variations of each element without just copying and pasting them. And this really helps you scale your design. So obviously in a production level, your only variable, your only property is not color, but that's a start. But let's say we can do different things. Like let's say instead of a color, what we can do here is let's say instead of a color we say priority. And what I mean by that is, let's say priority is like primary button, and let's make this one a secondary, and I want the secondary to have basically I want the secondary buttons to have a, instead of a fill stroke, I want it to just have its outlines because it's a secondary button. And the way to do this, I'm gonna click on Shift X, and then I will have to pick the text here again. I'm gonna make this black, and I want the outline of this one black as well. Perfect. So now if we were to go back here and I'm gonna pick something, I can pick primary and secondary, and you can see how Figma updated it. So it's not now about the color, it's about priority. So if you make a change in the master element here, your children will also change. That is also very good. And that is, let's say, for the final thing, let's do this secondary. Boom. And you can see here that now we can actually change how a button's priority also looks like. Is it a primary button? Is it a secondary button? Is it a tertiary button? And that's just the start. And that's the overview, guys, of why we need variants, how to use them basically, and just a few examples. Right, so now that we are actually done with the overview, let's begin designing. So we are going to design this screen, and we are also going to use, for the cards you see here, we are going to make them basically a variant. We are going to have a main component, and we will have 2 other or 4 or 5 other variants, so we can actually save our time, apply what we learned, and create these beautiful cards. So let's begin by actually creating the parent frame iPhone, which is iPhone 13 mini, and let's align them. And then for the colors, so I'm gonna zoom out a bit. So for the colors I use on the left side, I actually documented them here, and the fill color I'm going to use for the screen is this, and I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna make it fill here. Perfect. And then I'm gonna begin adding the header, which is trending posts. For this application, I am actually going to pick the AutoWidth for the header, and for this application I picked the font Figma. If you don't have it installed, you can also use Roboto, but I would actually encourage you to install it. It's a very good font. I really like using it. And I'm gonna, before I go more further, I want to align my design better, whether it is actual texts or cards or pictures or other elements. I actually wanna get to the iPhone here a layout grid, and what this will give me is actually an option of choices to actually align my elements better. You can pick the grid option, you can pick the rows, but I will pick columns. And I want the left and right margins to be 24 pixels. I want the gutter to be 24 pixels. And I want this to have 6. And now these lines will actually show me how to align. That's good. And I'm gonna have the time there, 1648. And again, if you are working on a production app, you can use a UI kit for the top menu here. I just haven't, because this is just to demonstrate. And while our left alignment is right, I think our top is not that right. Yep, that is good. And I'm gonna get AutoWidth for this element as well. Now what I'm going to do now is I am gonna check the distance between these 2 elements, maybe 2 more, 24 let's say. In here it's 10 pixels, but I'm actually gonna update because that's too close. So I like this breathing room. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna design my card. To do that, I'm gonna press F, which is my frame, and I am gonna get this to be basically around 216 pixels for height and 327 for the width, so that we don't go out of the bounds for our columns here. 24 pixels left, 24 pixels right, and I'm checking it with by pressing Alt, and that's pretty good. And then what I want to do is I'm gonna name this frame card. So now that we have our card frame, let's add the elements inside it. I'm gonna actually add a rectangle here that will actually be holding the card image, and I want this to be actually 0, and because it's inside the frame, its coordinates are given by the frame, and I want this to be roughly 96 pixels. And to actually insert an image to this, I'm gonna right click, going to the plugins, and I'm gonna use my Unsplash plugin. And again, if you never heard of Unsplash, it's a very good Figma plugin that I use daily. I actually suggest you to go to my Figma plugins video. It will actually make you download all these useful plugins that will ease your workflow. But let's go to here and let's go money. I'm assuming. Let's see which ones we picked before. This is a bit hard. Let's say I'm having difficulty finding the same image. I think it's this one, right? And then we want our frame to have a different color, and I want it to have a fill color, and I want its color to be, and that is why Control C, I wanted to have the color of this blue, and the color that I picked is this one here, right here. And now I'm got the background color right, I got the image right. I am gonna actually get the profile, so I'm gonna write this as background image. Now I'm gonna add the profile. To get the circular shape, I am gonna click on O, and I'm gonna give it a size of 32 pixels, so 32. Again, using multiples of 4 here is good, and I want it to actually have a 16 pixel margin there, and I want this to be centered, yes. And now I will add a profile shot to this. And the profile shots we use are random. I use a plugin called User Profile, and I'm gonna pick one here. It's gonna generate a random user profile. Boom, we got it. And then I'm gonna do text to actually add my text here. And I'm gonna use another plugin called Lorem Ipsum to insert some dummy data. And that's gonna be like maybe 2 sentences. Right, 2 sentences should be good, and that's really big. Let's get this to 14. Let's get this to 14, maybe 12. And 14, let's unbold this by the shortcut Command B. And let's get it width to here. And let's make sure we are also aligning this with the circle. And to check the alignment, you can press on Shift R to drag a ruler. To drag a ruler from the left side here. And that looks pretty good. Shift R to close the ruler. And maybe add some more words here for it to match. So I'm gonna just copy this remaining text and I'm gonna paste it here. That's pretty good. And we are on mobile. 12 to 14 isn't bad. Maybe 0 here. That's pretty good. And I want this to have at least 8 pixels. Yeah, 8 pixels is pretty good. Maybe 16 for height. That looks better. So let's add these views icon and the heart icon, and to do that, I click on my frame and I right click to pick my plugins, and I'm gonna pick feather icons, which is an icon set, and I'm gonna check for I for the views icon, and I'm gonna pick the heart. Alright, so now one of the things that this plugin does is they actually put them outside of the frame I wanted them to be in. So I have to drag them now. And then I'm gonna get both of them around here. And I want basically one of them to be going to the left. And I'm gonna zoom in here to actually, I don't want to view the grid, those red lines anymore. And to hide them, you can do Ctrl G. And I want both of these icons to have the color of white. Now, there's a difference. Their stroke width, I think, in the right side, what we have is 2 pixels, but I like them to be 1. So I'm gonna go to each individual icon and I'm gonna pick them to be 1. That's perfect. That is perfect. And that's pretty good. And I want to actually get these guys to be smaller. So maybe 16. That's good. I'm gonna put them here. So now that looks pretty good. I'm gonna get them here, here, and I'm gonna now add the text. Maybe 20. What was the line? It was 41.2k, 1.2k. So let's actually insert the text now. Let's get this 41.2k. Text is, I think, bolded. And let's get it here. And let's get this to 12 pixel height. And I'm gonna actually center these. Oh no, that's not correct. I'm gonna eyeball this by here. That is pretty good. It should be 4 pixels. And I'm gonna group these two together. And this is the views group. And then I'm gonna get the text again, put it here. And I think it was 29.8k, 29.8k. And I'm gonna basically align them with my eye. This is too low. This is too high. Maybe around here would be pretty good. And I'm gonna group them, and this is the hearts. And I'm gonna check the left alignment of this, which is pretty good. That's 26. Let's get this to its height and then check how far away our element is by pressing Alt. 12, 14. That's not bad. 20 is acceptable. I think maybe 2 pixels here. And I want this to be, I want both of these to be auto width actually. Yep, and now let's check the distance, 8 pixel, perfect. That looks pretty good to my eye. And so we have a card, which is pretty good. We have a card, yay! Now before, and this is the avatar. Now before I go any further, I actually now, instead of designing the rest of them, I'm gonna make this a component, and then I'm gonna make this a variant. And so here is what we do. We actually Command C to copy, and I'm gonna go to this frame which I created. It's an empty card frame. I'm gonna paste this here, and this is what we are gonna use to actually create our variations, components of this card, so we can use different pictures and avatars in it. So to actually make this have different variants, we have to first make it a component. So let's let's use a shortcut Alt Command K. Command K. What's happening? I think Figma just bugged out. Alt Command K. Now it worked. It just bugged out, guys. So then I can give it the superpower of variants. And I want to stay roughly 3-5 versions. So I want this one to have a different. Let's say I want this one to have a different avatar. Let's say avatar is in like, I want to use user profile. I want this to be a different one. Insert random photo. That's cool. And then I want to add a new one, and to add a new variant, Figma actually makes this very easy. You click on this right plus button that is purple, and I want this to be also a different user profile. I want this to be a different user profile as well. Let's insert, and that's pretty good. And then what I want is, my bad, then what I want is basically I want a 3 copies of this, because we are not only gonna change the avatar, we are gonna also change the background. So we will have 3 different avatars with 3 different backgrounds. Combining, we will have 9 different variations. So I'm gonna click on this, and if you want to copy the exact variation you want to actually duplicate, you click on the variation and then click the plus button here. And I want to have one more, and I want to have one more of this. I want to have one more here, and that is a bit too much, so I'm gonna move this frame, and I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna move its content, this child here, up here, open it up a bit more, up here, that's good, and maybe move this one here, and maybe open them up, maybe 3 in a row. That would be better, right? Yeah, that's better. So let's quickly add the variations for the second and third row as well. I'm gonna zoom in by Shift 0, and I'm gonna click on this one, and I'm gonna add a new variant, basically, which is perfect. I'm gonna add another one, perfect, and I'm gonna put this one here, align it with the top, and I'm gonna do the same for the third round. I'm gonna select it, then click on the plus sign there, and click on it one more. Okay, so we have these different variances. So now I'm gonna, okay, so we have these 9 different variations, but right now only the avatars are different. So I want to make the background also different here. So I want them to actually have in each row a different background. So I want this to go plugins, unsplash, and let's say we pick space. Let's say we pick something like this. And for the third one, let's say we do the same thing. Plugins, unsplash, and we pick technology, and we pick the matrix. Great. And I'm gonna do the same for these two. I'm gonna pick the space one. Space one here. I'm gonna do the bottom one first. The space one for that one as well. This is the shortcut. For that one, I am gonna actually do the matrix, technology, to the matrix, and boom. All right. So those are our all variations. Now we have to add them the properties so we can actually understand them all, because right now our property we have only one, but we actually need 2. So we are going to do that next. Add the properties. We want to go to our parent card here, because everything inside here is its variants, and we want to make the first property to be actually, let's say, avatar name. And we wanna then add a new property. To add a new property, you wanna click on more options icon and you click on add new property. The second property would be background image. So here is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go by each of these, and avatar name, let's say Lucius, and background image as in like money. And I'm gonna go to the second one, and in here avatar name is again Lucius, but the background image it has is space. And I'm gonna go to the third one, and you guessed it, avatar name Lucius, but the background name matrix, and that's my favorite. And let's go to the second row. We have to now change the avatar name because avatar changed, it became this dude. Let's name this avatar name Dexter, background name money, and again the name Dexter, background name space. And now Figma is filling for us because Figma understood what we are trying to do. Dexter, and background image is matrix. And this one should be, let's say, name them Simone, background image money. And here we have Simone, and background image as in like space. And we can do Simone, background image matrix. And that's our variants. So how are we gonna use this, Ahmed? We have all these 9 variants. So what we are gonna do is we are just gonna copy one here, go to our element, and we can delete this card now. We don't need a normal frame, and I'm just gonna paste one, okay? And I'm gonna align it 24, 24, maybe 24. I'm gonna 24, yep. And now I can pick whatever value I want for it. I can pick it Dexter, and I can pick it space. And it really lets me customize very easily. And let's say we copy here, and we copy one more here. And let's say we make this one Dexter with space, and the last one, let's say we make it Simone with matrix. And now I'm gonna add over the Simone's card here the navigation. In the last section, what we are missing is the bottom navigation part. So to actually create it, I'm gonna first press on Shift 2. And I think Figma is just bugging out. Shift 0 to zoom in 100%. I'm gonna press R as a shortcut to create a rectangle. And I'm gonna stretch this across the whole screen, and I know it's 48 pixels height, and that's perfect. And I'm gonna fetch its color by Ctrl C to fill a color shortcut, and I'm gonna pick the color in my color section here, and it is this color right here if you wanna copy right there. And I'm gonna make this rectangle basically a frame. I'm gonna name this bottom navigation. Now I want to use some advanced Figma features here just to give you a sneak peek of what you can do. So if you are seeing all these, each icon, we have 3 icons with their labels underneath them, and what we can do is if we make each of these a frame also as a child frame to the bottom navigation, we can use auto layout to actually style these, and it would be much easier because even in the future if we had a 4th navigation item, our styling would be much more responsive. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, please click on the tutorial that has just come up for you in this video. It's an auto layout video I did to give an introduction on Figma auto layout feature. It will blow your mind. But let's get cracking. So to actually find those 3 icons, I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go to feather plugins, and I'm gonna go feather icons, and I'm gonna move this a bit here. I'm gonna do user profile. I'm gonna do compass, and then I'm gonna do settings. Perfect. So I'm gonna then get all these three icons on the left side inside our iPhone screen, and I'm gonna move them here. And then I'm gonna pick one, move one to, let's say, 25, pick another one, move that to 150 so we can see them. And I'm gonna pick all of the three, and I'm gonna set their color to be complete white. And I think they are 2 pixels instead of 1 pixel, so I'm gonna go over each icon here. I'm gonna set its stroke to be 1. I'm gonna pick everything here, set stroke to be 1. Now that looks more stylish to my eyes. Perfect. And that's pretty good so far. Alright, so now let's frame each of these icons. So to frame, I'm gonna use the shortcut Alt Command G, and I'm gonna use it again. So basically we are framing a frame here, and you might be wondering why. It's because we can add something to this frame, which is a text, and then you can say settings, and this is like settings frame, and then we can go to the user profile here, and what we can do is we can add a text profile, and we can basically get the profile out of the user. We can say user frame, or profile frame is a better naming, profile frame. And then we can pick this one, add a text again with the shortcut T, and we can say discover here, and we can put the discover inside this frame on the left side, and let's name this discover frame. Yeah, that is pretty good. Alright, so I'm gonna now actually organize this a bit more, because settings is on the right, discover one is on the left, and user profile is on the middle. And I know what you're thinking, their spacing is horrible right now, but they will get better. But before I go further, I want to just do something to texts. I want to get all of these to be auto width. Yep, that's better. And then I want the parent frame, so not the icons frame, but the parent discover frame, for example, to have a height of the 48 pixels that is as high as the parent bottom navigation frame. And I want this to be a bit longer, and I will do this to each frame here. So I'm just basically getting them to the edge. I'm missing 1 pixel there. Perfect. Doing the same with here. And I'm holding command when I'm doing this, so I don't stretch its content inside. Otherwise the inside icons and the text would stretch. I don't want that. So press command when you are doing this. So now that our width is a bit better, I'm gonna also stretch it horizontally. Let's make it 48 each of them. And what I can do now, I can actually do an auto layout here. And this gives me, basically this lets me style the children inside this frame vertically or horizontally. I want to do vertically, and I want to pick them to be at the center. And I want the margin difference between the text and the icon to be 2 pixels. Perfect. And I want to do this to each and every one of them actually. And I want to check one more thing. I know that the 4 pixel here is pretty good, so I will also make them have left, right. So if we adjust here, you can see we can adjust here, but I like the 4 pixel look. I think we can even make this better than the left side design there. And I'm gonna make this one auto layout as well. I'm gonna make them have 2, and I'm gonna make this to be 4, 4, 0, 0, just like the discover icon, and I'm gonna center its contents. and I'm gonna do the same for the settings. Add an auto layout, margin difference 2, and then let's see 4 and center. Now that we actually got the contents to be centered for each sub frame here, the discover frame, profile frame, settings frame, I can add auto layout to the bottom navigation as well, and boom, it will center everything it has. I will actually center this, and maybe not 86 pixel. 86 might work, but I want it to have like left margin to be maybe less than, maybe 18. I want it to match the cards there. So I'm gonna check with my Shift R. I'm gonna make them come a bit more. So I'm gonna make them come a bit more here, maybe 14 and 14 there. Oh no, my mistake. Oh, what did I do here? I made a mistake. What did I do? Let's see. Ooh, this did not work. Alright, let's think this through. So what happens if we go back here 20 and we make a mistake here? We want to increase this distance. Okay, yeah, so you want to keep everything to 14, and you want to increase the distance between the elements so they go to the edge here. Perfect. And that's pretty good, and they're at 42 pixels right now. I wanted to give maybe like 3 tops, 3 bottom, and that's 48. That's pretty good, and now it looks amazing. And I'm gonna move my ruler here to see, and sometimes you make mistakes, guys. This part doesn't align well. This part, oh no, it does, my bad. So this looks way better, and yeah, I like this one's look way better than the other one. And yeah, now I would like to hear your thoughts about this, how it looks. Maybe like they are both 3-3, so that's good. So this actually looks better than the left one. I think we forgot one thing too, because this one discover is selected, so let's bold this out, and let's also bolden just the discover icon a bit more, maybe 1.5, to show it's the one that is selected, and boom, and that's beautiful as well. And yeah, and that is the tutorial, guys. You actually learned how to use the variants for the cards, and we also learned how to use the auto layout, and sometimes it gets finicky and you gotta experiment, and we all make mistakes. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you love my videos and you want to get more Figma tutorials so that you can become a better UI UX designer, make sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, so we can stay in touch. Now, before you go any further, I actually added 2 videos to the end of this video that I believe will help make you a better UI UX designer on Figma. Please watch either of them if you haven't already. I believe they will improve your design skills a lot.